Welcome, everybody, to this week's podcast episode for the Financial Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. As you know, we talk about four different types of freedom: time, financial, location, health freedom. And in that light, I'm always scouring the globe, interviewing entrepreneurs, successful individuals on the cutting edge, leading edge, influencing, impacting the world. So today we have Gail Doby, and she's the founder of Gail Doby Coaching and Consulting. She's also the Chief Vision Officer, and it's going to be a great conversation about building an amazing team, business, success, and how to make it as an entrepreneur. So without much ado, I'll welcome Gail to the show and let her introduce herself. So Gail, welcome.
Thank you so much. And I'm very excited to speak with your group and to see if I can share a few nuggets here that might be useful. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I know we had connected through Podmatch, and it's a great service. Tell us more about how you got started, and we'll go from there.
Okay, that sounds great. Well, first of all, this is my second business, and the first business was actually interior design. And interestingly, I have a finance degree, but I realized about 2007 that that particular business was not making me happy. So the young woman that was working for me at that time, and still is actually, she and I sat down together, and this is 15 years ago now, made a decision that we wanted to build a different business together. So we wanted to teach interior designers how to make money at the business of design. So that really is my passion, is business, and not really the design part is what I realized. So that's kind of how I got started in this particular business. And we are coming up on almost 15 years. We actually rebranded when we first connected. So we have a brand new name called the Pearl Collective, just so I can update our listeners a little bit. But and we did that for a lot of key reasons, and partly because we are expanding our business and want to be able to go on beyond the field of interior design, because we believe so much in the fact that we need to help people be successful in their businesses. There are just so many people that struggle in making money at it. And you talked about financial freedom and time freedom. Time freedom is a big part for a lot of people that get so caught up and are working so hard in their businesses, but they don't really take time for themselves. I'm sure you find that true.
Ultimately, what's interesting is, money is a resource, and, we're taught to trade our time for money. And if we can learn to use money to work for us, it frees up a lot of time. We can do higher value, higher order tasks. And so, that's why I'm trying to get that message out. And what's interesting is that, so, we talk about, we kind of have like five main ideas episode. And one thing is you talk about your creative value blueprint. Tell us more about that and how it applies to your business and your clients.
Sure, absolutely. And I want to make sure it's applying to your listeners too, because I think this is true for any business. Everybody is creative in some way or another in their businesses. And so you can have the creativity part, which is what we as entrepreneurs do, is for people. But we also need to have a blueprint in how to make money doing what it is we love. And that's sometimes where people are disconnected between the reality piece and the creative piece. And not that they're not combined, but you have to be able to have both parts working in your business to really reach your potential and have the financial returns that you want. So in my opinion, and this is just my personal opinion, when I have helped people understand what the basic foundational things are, such as first, what your personal goals are, what your financial goals are for yourself and your family, and then from there, build a financial model that makes that all happen. Those two things are tied together along with creativity, which means that's what the creative value blueprint is. So it's how do you build a business that's built on creativity and entrepreneurship and make money at it and have some life balance at the same time.
Mm-hmm. And since you come from the interior design and kind of the creative space. And ultimately, it's all about business and how your value and your service to your customer, either a product, service, software. And tell us more about what you learned from the design interior space and how the financially successful charge for their services.
Well, okay, that's a great big question. Thank you for that, Christopher. I think one of the things that is interesting is for every single business that's out there that provides design services, they have a little tweak on how they do it versus other people. So there are so many ways that people charge for their services. But what I really want to focus on here is how you need to charge for your service if you're a doctor or if you're a designer or whatever it is that you are, really is based on what you believe your value to be. I don't know. What do you think about that? Because I think a lot of us, it's what we can sell. And if we don't believe that we're worth the value, then we're not going to charge what we're really capable of charging, even if we're one of the most talented out there in whatever industry we're in. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, in the medical profession, it's kind of taboo to talk about money, and I'm not really sure why, because it's kind of like this oxymoron, because doctors are mostly higher paid, and then they kind of like it's kind of like the religion. You're not supposed to talk about money, but then you're shamed for but it's all about value, and you need to get this. You need to have money conversations. The value of money. How is it generated? What does it expend? What are assets, liabilities? All these terms. Yeah. And you need to charge for your service, otherwise you're going to go out of business, right? No business you can provide for free for forever. So I really don't understand that, but you need to charge for what you're worth. So whether it's 100 per hour or 500 per hour, you need to tailor it based on what value you can provide to your client. Right. So that, I just found that interesting because, with especially with the creatives, there's subjective value attached. So it's kind of like, this person, can charge this much. It's just what the market will pay. So the other
I could dive into that a little bit more if you don't mind. And I think what I'd like to say here is that you brought up some interesting points. And sometimes what we help our clients do is, if they know what their financial goals are personally, then we can put together a financial model which says, okay, this is what you need to charge in order to achieve that. And all of a sudden, their whole thinking switches from them feeling guilty for charging what they're worth to understanding that if they don't charge enough, then they're not going to accomplish their goals. And it's a really interesting little mindset switch that happens when they finally get a picture of what it's going to take to create that success in their business financially. And so my view is, whether you're a doctor or whether you're a designer, that you can charge more than you think you can charge, but it really comes back to, where are you in your head and in your heart, and what do you believe that you're worth? Because that is going to allow you to achieve a higher level of service that you can provide to others. And the higher the level of service, the higher the value of you'll have for yourself, and also that your clients will have of you. So, for example, I know you probably deal with people that are running practices that are not necessarily getting paid by insurance. They are more of the concierge service. So that concierge service is a higher level of service, and therefore something that demands a higher price because you're getting higher service. So I think that if we can switch our thinking from this is a transaction to it's something that's more transformational for the person, if we can have them be healthier and happier, then they're probably going to pay us more for that service, right?
Yeah, it's quite interesting. And then especially health professionals, I think majority of doctors are W-2, and the type of employment is moving towards W-2 because these large organizations are just absorbing everything. And but if you look at like dentists or optometrists, they're more entrepreneurial because they have to open their own practices. There's right. There's not as much W-2 opportunities for these types of professions. So in my mind, they're more entrepreneurial. They can do more. Doctors kind of, for better or worse, they're kind of pigeonholed into being employees. One interesting thing is talking about is how okay, so we always like my clients, they're always like, I want to grow, I want to scale, all this, like we think growing and scaling, that's a good thing, but may not be good for everybody. And so talk about how business success serves your life goals.
Well, yeah, that kind of ties back into that financial model too, which I know sounds kind of weird. And I want to go back to something that you said at the beginning of the podcast, which is that it is almost taboo to talk about money. And the reality is, you got to talk about money to somebody. And it's either going to be to your CPA or to your spouse or to somebody else who can advise you and show you how to make a great living at whatever it is you're doing. But if you don't know how to do that, you need some help in doing that. Always, there's some level of support and training and coaching that people need in that particular arena. So, I've been thinking about this because I belong to Kaiser, and I go to a doctor who's on salary. So I was thinking about what you were saying about the W-2 versus I am paying outside of that to a private concierge type of doctor for health and wellness to actually work with me on things that will make me feel better. And so I'm paying extra out of pocket outside of what I'm paying for insurance to get that kind of care. And I believe today, and there's a really great book out that you might want to share with your readers. And I think it's called GNAR. It's by Stephen Kotler. And it's about aging successfully. And it's about as you get older, you are going to want better services and more training about how to be well and how to be more successful as you get older in life. So I think there's so much opportunity for people to take those ideas and those concepts around health and wellness and turn those into maybe a side service if they are not in a service like Kaiser, and they can have their own business where they literally are providing services at a higher cost, and they are also able to resell product, and they're able to make a margin from that. But it's all about, you've got to know how to build that business. And it means you also have to understand how to sell and how to manage a team. So when it comes to scaling, it depends on what your personal goals are. If you want to earn $1 million a year as a doctor, it's probably possible, but probably not if you're a W-2, right? It's very hard to do that. But you could, if you're an entrepreneur that has some sort of a special practice where you're providing a service that gives people what they really want and need. So my view is, if you have a valuable service, then it is something that you can scale and provide the level of service and the types of services people are willing to pay for out of pocket. So it's really thinking about how can you change your view and your mindset around what it is you're doing so that you can find a niche in the business that's yours and that you can own and that you can make great money doing.
I always tell my clients that the best way to control your time and your income is to become an entrepreneur and an investor. If you, like some of my colleagues, their salaries stay the same. They're really high, but they stay the same over the last 15 years, and they have to work harder. And basically your salary is declining as you just don't realize it.
Exactly.
And what is interesting is you talk about, and for all the listeners out there, Gail's reference to the GNAR book will be referenced in the links and show notes, so be sure to check that out. But you mentioned about business being having skills as a business owner and marketing and managing teams.
Yes.
These are things we do not learn in school. School basically prepares us to be employees. So tell us about the tools you need to succeed like a boss.
Oh, wow. There's so many. And I think that what's so interesting, and I'm a massive reader, so I read all the time. I'm reading every single day. And one of the things that I've learned is you have to keep learning how to be better at what you do. And so today, I think some of the skills that allow you to be a great entrepreneur. And as doctors, you're still an entrepreneur. You just may be working as an entrepreneur with another company, or an entrepreneur if you own your own. But the reality is, we have to continue to learn how to be empathetic. Empathy is probably one of the most important skills that people can have today. Listening is an important skill today. And so, if you can listen and be empathetic to your patients and also to your team, then you're going to be a better leader of your company. Leadership skills today, absolutely one of the most critical skills that you can have to run a business. And it's a hard thing to run a business. And you may be great at what your practice is and maybe what your specialty is, but the people part of it is really what's going to take you to the next level. And today is so critically important, because today we get judged on how well we really interact with other people. You see it with Google reviews. Even my doctors get Google reviews. So you have to be a great communicator and a great listener, and you have to be empathetic, and you have to lead people, and you have to have a culture within your business. And you also have to understand the financial piece of how to make it work if you have the right people. So if you have the right people and the right vision, the right mission, and the right goals that you're shooting for, you can provide great service and get compensated well.
And there's so many gems in that. And one of the key thing is it's all about these new because everything like technology, software, automation, everything is making the very basic things just basically run on autopilot. And so now it's all of these soft skills like leadership, creative, long-term thinking, all these very soft skills that'll bring us and help propel us into the next decade. So really fascinating conversation. I really enjoyed this conversation. Tell us more about how people can find you on social media, visit your website, follow you,
Sure.
and contact you.
That's great. Thank you for asking. And it's thepearlcollective.com. And we have just recently set that one up. And we also have gaildoby.com. And that's where you can find out about my book and also about my speaking. And I just believe that what you're doing is so important for your profession. And it's one of those things that if you can help the doctors understand that they are running businesses and that they have a right to make money and they have a right to be happy and all of those things, and that they just need to have the right plan to make it work. If you can help them with that, that is just an amazing thing. So good for you for focusing on your particular profession.
Yeah. And thank you for that. And for all the audience out there listening, be sure to follow Gail on her social media. She's on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, as well as her website, gaildoby.com. There's a link there where you can contact and schedule. You can have a quick call with her about consulting clients' care, learn about business, etc. So with that, thanks so much for coming onto the show, and thanks for being a valuable resource.